Welcome to Discovering 615, the podcast celebrating the people, places, and stories that make Middle Tennessee amazing. From local business owners and entrepreneurs to musicians, creators, and community leaders across the Nashville and Middle Tennessee area, we're shining a light on the heartbeat of our community. And now here's your host, Rob Thacker, Thack Attack 615.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Discovering 615. I'm your host, Rob Thacker, Thack Attack 615, and I'm joined today. I'm really excited about our guest today, Scott Miller, the wine sommelier at Pour Vous here in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and we're going to talk about all things wine. Scott, welcome to the podcast,
I'm
man.
glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's jump right into this because obviously a wine sommelier, people are going to want to know, one, are you from Nashville area? And two, what got you into this area, this career, this fun career?
So my father was Air Force, so I got to spend a lot of time in England. We were stationed in England for about 8 years. Through that time, I was 12 to 18 years old and able to drink wine at that time. So in England, it's different in Europe. So I got to do a lot of traveling as my father was stationed there, and we got to hit vineyards, and I just kind of became very passionate with wine at a very young age. So then when we came back to the U.S., I couldn't stop. Everything was old world for me. So I just wanted to just continue to relive those experiences, just kind of get back to just the basics and how things were done a long, long time ago. So, here, as what got me here, it's basically, I came back to the U.S. and fell in love with someone that was from Indianapolis, and we were down in Atlanta, Georgia. So this was halfway in between, right here in Nashville. So it got me here. I found Pour Vous and was able to continue to study to do some sommelier certifications.
Gotcha. So what brought you about the interest in terms of the sommelier and pursuing that specifically too?
I think it was walking the vineyards, it was meeting with winemakers and talking to them at young ages themselves. And then, I got to, taste the grapes, taste the wines, touch the soil that the vines were grown in. And from there, I just never looked back.
Gotcha. So what are some of the challenges? I mean, obviously with every industry, there are challenges. So what are some of the challenges, or actually before we even talk about challenges, what's the process in terms of becoming a sommelier?
Yeah, that's one of the tough exams on the planet. So that's where it kind of starts, sommelier certifications are done a couple different ways, Court of Masters being one of the most prestigious.
Right.
It is a massive set of tests, exams, blind certifications. So tasting wines, telling them, the varietal, the appellation they were grown, and the vintage, and being able to do that completely blind. Also theory exams, it's intense, man. The pass rate on some of these exams are as low as 2%. So to become a master, to be one of the 280 is a lifelong journey.
And when you use that word 280, is that 280 in the world?
Yeah, ever.
Okay.
So
286
ever to become master sommeliers. That would be the fourth level.
Okay.
So, it's level one, pretty obtainable. Level two, not just for everybody. Level three, you have to be kind of crazy, and they say a master's they're all insane. So I must be insane because that's where I want to go.
Okay, so that in terms of the future, that's where you're looking at in terms of your level three.
Yeah, I'm working on my level 3, but I won't stop until I'm a master.
Okay. So you're going to go after that level 4 then.
Yes, sir.
Good for you, man. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So how do you, like, in terms of, let's talk wine, because I mean, people are going to tune in and say, oh, I thought he's talking about wine. He's advertising. So let's talk about wine here. What makes a good, or maybe I should say an excellent wine? There may be a lot of good wines out there, but excellent. What makes it a excellent wine?
So the most important thing, and I'm sure if you asked sommeliers, everyone would have a little bit of a different answer. A broad term would be the terroir. And that's basically the climate, the soil, where it's located. It's all very, very important, but the most important would be the vintage, the weather of that year.
Okay.
Because weather and regions determine the quality of the fruit.
Okay.
Right. So a region can have great weather one year and have wonderful fruit, and the next year have horrible weather, and all of a sudden that fruit is no good. So understanding vintages and things that you can't control, of course, wildfires out in California.
Right.
If a vineyard's covered in smoke, those grapes aren't going to taste as good as if they weren't covered in smoke.
Right.
So,
right.
There's just a lot that goes into the process of growing the vines, and then you have to have someone be able to make the wine. So, and that's a whole nother animal in its own. So.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned vintage. Come back to that a little bit. You talked about, so is the vintage, for those that are listening or watching, is the vintage then the climate of that year? Is that what that means
The
then?
vintage is literally the year those grapes were grown.
Okay.
You should know, you can look back at data on a vintage, so that specific year, and you can find out what weather was doing in that specific region for that year. So that would be the vintage, is the climate of the weather in that specific year.
Okay. So climate is crucial then. What about when it comes to developing taste? I mean, because you, as a sommelier, have got to taste a ton of wines, and talk some people through about the wines.
So it's kind of crazy to think, though, that so the chemical compounds that make up odors are the same chemical compounds in wine that are in fruits and things that you smell and taste every day. So when someone says, this red wine has notes of blackberry, there's literally a chemical compound that smells like blackberries. That's in the wine. It's also in blackberries. So you should be able to pull out specific notes from different varietals, just determining on those chemical compounds that would be in both those fruits, cherries, raspberries, blackberries. Those are all typical red wine notes. Whereas you go into white wine, you take green apples and pears and peaches and things like that. So, developing the taste in the wine, it all has to do with the grape varietal and what kind of flavors those kind of show. And then from there, you take that grape and you grow it in a specific region, and you can kind of alter those flavor profiles as well. So, for example, Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, grapefruit, Sauvignon Blanc from France, lemon or lime. So the citrus notes are there, but it changes on the soil that the grapes are grown in.
Gotcha.
And then just studying that by sampling wine is the only way. So, I have to taste a lot of wine and kind of compare them against each other.
So when somebody talks about, like, for example, my wife Elizabeth, who is one of your customers here, talks about she likes her Chardonnay drier, not as fruity. What goes into making the Chardonnay a little bit more dry on the finish rather than fruity?
That's a great question. So a winemaker could, for instance, throw Chardonnay into an oak barrel, and that would kind of pull some of that fruitiness out of the wine and bring in some of those baking spices and things like that, which would create more of that tannic kind of dry finish on the wine. So maybe a little bit of time in oak barrel. Whereas in some Chardonnay can be in stainless steel, where it's kind of crisp and fruity, and not so dry on that finish.
Gotcha. So when we look at the wine industry, what are you seeing going on in the wine industry in 2026? I know there's some interesting takes on it.
Yes.
I've been hearing a lot of people, especially our younger people, are now looking at more organic, talk about that.
Yep.
Old world versus California. So talk a little bit about that for us.
So there's a lot of countries and different laws for production of wine. So, for instance, if you go to California, you can put things in the wines that you're not allowed to put into wines if you were to purchase them from, say, Germany, being one of the strictest countries with wine production. So I think that now we're starting to see people are trending towards biodynamic farming, for one, taking care of the earth and still being able to do things. And then also, filtration on wines. maybe less filtration, more old world style of wine. So natural productions, not adding sulfites, not adding things to preserve the wine, and kind of just drinking natural wines. It's definitely a trend I've started to notice in 2026.
And that's what I'm assuming buyers are asking for then too, right?
Yes, yeah, they want organic.
Okay.
That's one of the key words people want, is organic wines. A great thing to know about wine is all grapes are organic, right? So you just can't spray pesticides. Well, if you get wines from certain countries, pesticides aren't allowed.
Right.
Certain vineyards, they don't produce wines using pesticides. So you can seek out specific vineyards that are practicing those styles of wine production.
Gotcha. So what are you seeing? What are your customers here at Pour Vous? What do you see your customers buying a lot of lately?
We notice a lot of European wines. I think people are traveling more, and they're wanting to kind of relive those experiences. Right. Some of those varietals that you might not have heard of, or you might not see, you can go to another country and they'll kind of show you all these things and get you to kind of step out of your comfort zone. Right. and try wines you typically wouldn't try, Cabernet or Chardonnay,
Right.
It's like, try something different, and they have a ton of that. So people are coming back from vacation and like, oh, I had Taringa Nacional from Portugal, and we carry that. So, we can help you kind of relive those experiences.
Good deal. So what do you like in terms of with your customers, obviously helping them relive those experiences? What other, with your customers, what other experiences do you want them to be able to have with wine and purchasing of wine?
Well, the main thing is I want people to be able to enjoy something they might not have had an opportunity to enjoy with the foods that go best with that wine. So traditionally, we say that, wine was made for food, but I think food goes with the wine,
Okay.
So when you eat a dish, then you pair your wine to that dish, and you can enhance the dish and the wine. Whereas if you just eat the food alone, or you just drink the wine alone, you don't get that beautiful experience. Gotcha. You might if you can combine those.
Gotcha.
So my favorite thing is to have someone come in and tell them, hey, grill a steak and get a cream butter sauce, and then drink an oaky Chardonnay.
Okay.
People typically, the number one pair with the steak would be Nebbiolo or some Cabernet,
Right.
This deep, dark red grape. But I'm going to tell you, as a sommelier, one of the best experiences I've had is a steak and white wine.
Well, let's have a little fun with that.
Yeah.
So that's a great lead-in, because I've got a little bit of a rapid fire for Scott here. So let's have a little fun with the rapid fire. He just answered the question, y'all. Yeah, I was going to ask him, but I'll ask it anyway. If you grilled a perfectly grilled steak, what are you pouring? I think you just hinted.
Well, so I am going to do a Barolo or Nebbiolo, but if I cover that steak with a cream sauce, I'll switch it over and do a Chardonnay, maybe a Bourgogne Blanc Chardonnay aged in oak.
Okay.
And that oaky creaminess with that cream and that steak is just unbelievable. Chardonnay has acid, that cream has fat. The two together, wonderful pair.
Gotcha. All right, we live in Tennessee. So what best wine do you bring to a backyard barbecue?
Okay, so backyard barbecue, I'm going to go with a Gamay. So Gamay is indigenous to Beaujolais. So this is a French varietal as well. Hence, had a lot of time spent over in Europe. I love French wines, Italian wines, but definitely a Gamay from the Beaujolais region of France.
All right, someone orders salmon. What are you going to recommend there?
Okay, so salmon is a great fatty fish. So it's another Pinot Noir, Burgundy. I'm going back to France. Sangiovese from Italy is a wonderful red wine for salmon. Salmon has a lot of fat to it, so you want to kind of keep a high acid wine, but fruitiness. So cherry, cranberry, I'm going to go with Pinot Noir.
Well, that's interesting, because I think most people, I just learned something here. Most people think seafood, white wine, but you just named two red wines.
Yes, correct.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Okay, something new. All right, so what wine do you surprise people with where they're pairing pizza?
Okay, yeah, you got to go to Italy. Chianti, 100% Sangiovese. Sangiovese is one of Italy's lightest varietals, but has acid. Tomato sauce has acid. Those two together with the fattiness of the cheese, unbelievable pairing.
All right, then date night at home. You're going to impress. What's the wine?
Okay, so personal favorite of mine might be Corvina. Corvina is done in multiple styles. They do a ripasso. They'll raisinize some of the grapes, press some of them fresh, pass it over the raisins, gives it this kind of beautiful pruny, raisiny, leathery, sweet tobacco kind of situation. So if I'm going to just go home and pound a bottle of wine, it'd probably be Corvina.
And then every night wine?
Every night
your
wine.
go-to?
So right now it's being spring. I'm kind of in a Sauvignon Blanc kick, just because I'm starting to really get some crazy characteristics from Sauvignon Blancs in different areas of the world. And Sauvignon Blanc's the most sought after varietal right now.
Really?
So people are drinking Sauvignon Blanc white wine more than any other grape.
And there's a difference between the Italian version and the French version, correct?
Well, yeah, and New Zealand and Spanish.
New Zealand, okay.
So a lot of countries now are growing Sauvignon Blanc just due to the massive popularity. So countries that weren't growing it planted it 7 years ago just to kind of allow it to adapt to their region. So now we're finding Sauvignon Blanc from Spain. We're finding it. But traditionally you want New Zealand or French Sauvignon Blanc would be your predominant.
Okay. What about, let's do this one. Most underrated grape variety nobody talks about.
Oh my God, underrated. So I'm going to have to say it might be, it's a lost varietal, man. It's called Pinot d'Anis. It is a French varietal. It is super light. I mean, it's almost like a rosé, but it punches.
Okay.
It's got white pepper notes to it, just deep, dark cherry notes. It's just an awesome red wine no one ever talks about.
All right. You just mentioned France, so let's go. France or Italy?
Oh man, impossible question. So,
or maybe it's
my
answer
question would
three.
be who made wine first, France or Italy? So if you can answer that question, then you probably have an answer. But I don't think anyone could. So
No.
it just depends on your mood, man.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like wine is just an escape. You know, to kind of just relax the mind, relax the body, and you know, to use it. So if I had to say one, I would probably say.
Well, my wife would tell you French.
Yeah,
I would say Italy.
I
So
know.
there you go. There's the house divided.
Yeah. I would have to say between the two, I find myself leaning towards French varietals.
Okay. All right. Fair enough, man. So best wine under $20 that you actually recommend.
Okay. So, a wonderful wine for under $20. So I'm going to do two just because I think we should do a red varietal and a white varietal. Again, I think Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc you can get from Touraine, some French Sauvignon Blancs outside of Sancerre. Very high, elegant, beautiful wines for that $15 price point. And they're not far off from those $40 and $50 Sauvignon Blancs. On the other hand, I mean, man, you can get some unbelievable Cabernet. If you go to Washington and some of those, you know, step outside of Napa, go Southern Hemisphere even, Chile, you can get wonderful Cabernet varietal, and it is $15 a bottle.
Sweet.
Punching at that $50 price point.
Sweet. All right, so here's one for you. Biggest wine myth that you want to bust?
So the biggest wine myth I want to bust is that wine comes from France or Italy. So I don't believe it does. Wine is from, I think it's Hungary or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So when the countries were together, you know, and kind of went apart, the vines kind of split apart from everywhere too. So I think that everyone believes that wine came from France, and it didn't.
Well, and the greatest thing too is, like, even in America, everybody thinks California, but I've been to Michigan, and there are vineyards up there now.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
and they're
it's
doing
amazing.
Great wine in Michigan. It just goes to show that the reason we have to study constantly and continue to do what we're doing as sommeliers is because climate changes. So the greatest regions for wine production are no longer in those regions. So the weather that was there is now somewhere else. So, they're growing different grapes in different areas, and they're doing it better in different areas too.
I know we call this speed round, but let me throw in a question because it begs the question then. Besides California, where are you seeing in the United States, where are you seeing another big production of wine coming out of another state then?
Yeah, outside of Michigan, Pennsylvania, I think it's number 3 in the U.S. in wine production. So massive amounts of wines in PA. New York's doing a ton of different, Rieslings and Chenin Blancs. I mean, they're doing a lot of great stuff up north.
Okay. Last, and this is a bonus question, for the fire round. Quick fire round. Screw cap, acceptable or unacceptable?
It's definitely acceptable. One thing I have definitely noticed here in 2026 as well is some European producers and younger producers are starting to create quartz caps.
Oh, wow.
So they're doing quartz crystal caps. And the reason they're doing that is they're saying that the wine never oxidizes and there's no cork. So there's no potential corking of the wine. So also another thing with being able to completely trap out all the oxygen is you get a longer lifespan. So you can put wine in your fridge for 5 days instead of 2, just by having that quartz kind of really seal the bottle. Gotcha.
All right. So where can people follow you, Scott?
Well, we're here at Pour Vous. That's a great question because I need to get a handle or something up and going. But I'm always here in at Pour Vous, and we'll start doing some more things around Pour Vous. So I'll start blasting some stuff out, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone ever has.
Guys, come up and check Scott out at Pour Vous. Any final words you want to encourage your people who are wine lovers out there, or maybe new wine lovers? Anything you want to say to them?
All I have to say is don't be intimidated by the label and ask questions, because wine is for just new experiences and just being able to enjoy company of other people. So don't be intimidated by wine. It's wonderful. There's hundreds of different great varietals and so many different styles to try. There is a wine for everybody, I promise.
Oh, great. Well, Scott, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Discovering 615.
Yes,
for those of you out there listening, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, or you might find interested in listening to this. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe wherever you listen or watch. And as always, find your place, find your people, 615. God bless.